I hate poverty. That doesn't make me special. Everyone hates poverty, right? On the ever-shrinking list of things that we can actually agree on as Americans, that's got to be right up there. We love Morgan Freeman. We hate poverty. Everything else up for debate. I was recently asked to define what it is that I actually do. And I replied by saying, I'm a poverty abolitionist. That's what drives me. I think it's completely senseless that we have so much poverty in a country as wealthy as we are. From 2008 to 2014, I was chairman of the board of the largest homeless aid agency in Chicago. We did so much good at that organization, but it was never quite enough to thwart the downward spiral of poverty that our individuals suffered from. That's when I decided that I needed to make a philanthropic pivot. I need to figure out a way to stop poverty dead in its tracks. I needed to get to people before they became homeless or helpless or impoverished. It was about that time that I heard a vignette on NPR about a first-of-its-kind college scholarship program in Kalamazoo, Michigan, called the Kalamazoo Promise. First of its kind because it was the first ever to guarantee college access for students from a specific geography. So if you go to one of the 3 public high schools in Kalamazoo, Michigan, and if you do the work, you go to college for free. And a light flipped on for me. This program didn't just fund educational access. This program manufactured hope. Kalamazoo, Michigan is a city on the Western Shore of about 73,000 people. It has produced thousands of college graduates over the last decade that would not have gone to college without the intervention of the Kalamazoo Promise program. There's not a lot going on in Kalamazoo, but the Kalamazoo Promise has got it going on. The society has changed. The ecosystem has changed just because of this one factor. Public school enrollment has doubled from its trough. There are very, very few public school systems in this country that are growing. High school graduation rates are up 35%. And most notably, poverty is declining 5 times faster than the national average. So with the inspiration of the Kalamazoo Promise, I decided that I was going to start educational access programs in my 2 hometowns, Toledo, Ohio, where I grew up, and Chicago, where I've lived for the last 20 years. Those programs are called Hope Toledo and Hope Chicago, and we send thousands of students to college or trade school for free. Now, we do one thing a little bit different than Kalamazoo or than any other scholarship program in the country. We also send the parents or legal guardians of our students to college or trade school for free. Why do we do that? We do that because we believe that the largest source of poverty is lack of education or skill that will make anyone a credible hire. We also believe that poverty is multi-generational, and so you have to attack it from a multi-generational lens. So I needed to understand, though, before I dove headfirst into this, what exactly was the math behind this? How did this work? And if we invested our time, energy, and treasure in these 2 cities, would it produce societal outcomes that we wanted? Along came an economist from the University of Pennsylvania named Clive Belfield. He studied and found that for every $1 we invest in a student after high school, society gets a $4 return. And societal outcomes like violence reduction, entrepreneurs starting de novo businesses in underserved communities, and more taxpayers contributing to the tax base. I mean, imagine if you had a wallet where every time you put $1 in, you got $4 out. You'd be like George Costanza with your big wallet. Now, the value that college creates, some people have debate with me, but the value it creates and the data that supports it is irrefutable. A college graduate makes on average $36,000 more than his or her high school peer. And additionally, the IRS says that a college graduate earns an additional $1.2 million over the course of their lifetime. And it's not just the college graduate that benefits. Society benefits. The state of Illinois, where I live, states that a high school dropout cost state taxpayers $221,000 over the course of their lifetime, while a college graduate contributes $750,000 over the course of theirs. So if we know that education reduces poverty and creates societal value, we have to create a system, a symbiotic system that makes sense to actually educate every American. So I studied symbiotic systems that operate effectively in nature. This is a rhino. You all recognize a rhino. What you probably don't recognize is the little bird on top. The English name for that bird is oxpecker, probably because the scientist who named it was a 12-year-old boy. Now, the rhino, while mighty, has the dexterity of a retired NFL linebacker. It is powerless against the ticks burrowing in its back. And that's where the oxpecker comes in. It feasts on those ticks. And it also alerts the rhino to looming dangers because the rhino is nearly blind, like humans or lions. And the ticks, they have their role too. They feast on the rhino's blood, but they leverage the birds to fly to the next rhino because that's their only chance of mating with someone who is not one of their siblings. So now, how do we take this system that operates effectively in nature and use it as an analog and apply it to a real-world conundrum relative to how we educate all of our children? This mandates a three-sided funding platform between students, schools, and employers, all held equally accountable to the same standards, all equal participants in the process. Let's start with the rhino. American corporations, large, powerful, but beneath their tough exterior, they are getting eaten alive. I know. I started 5 companies and employed thousands of people. I know how tough it is to recruit and retain and train employees. In fact, Korn Ferry did a study recently and found that we will be 10 million employees short in this country by 2030 because of a lack of education and skill. And corporations are spending billions of dollars trying to recruit in ever smaller pools of career-ready professionals. So we are going to ask that our big corporate employers, those employers who have more than 10,000 employees, contribute 0.5% of their net income. That's after expenses, after taxes, after CEO golf memberships. 0.5% of their net income to help fund educational access for America's underserved families. Now, folks, this is not just an act of corporate charity. This is bottom line capitalism. These organizations don't have any other choice. And furthermore, in symbiosis with the colleges they're partnering with, they'll be able to advise the college advisors and teachers on curriculum so that these students are more career ready when they join the workforce. And then we have our oxpecker, colleges and universities across America, who are busy protecting the back of employers by training the human capital that they will need to grow and scale into the future. Now, our oxpecker, our colleges and universities, they have major challenges. For 12 of the last 13 years, college enrollment has been declining. The Department of Education estimates there are 1 million fewer college graduates today than there were just 5 years ago, but do not confuse this with the pandemic phenomenon, folks. This is a trend that's been happening for 10 to 15 years. And it's a trend that will bring this company to its knees if we don't reverse it soon. Now, our colleges have challenges, but some of them are self-made. They have to hold the line on expenses. And administrators and trustees have to stop making the excuse that a reduction in government funding is their rationale for increasing tuition and fees to underserved students. We actually know that is not true. The Wall Street Journal just released a study a few weeks ago, a 20-year longitudinal study studying 50 of the largest public universities in this country. And here's what they determined. They found that for every $1 of reduced government funding, colleges increased tuitions and fees to their students by $2.40. So enough with the shiny new buildings and the massive infrastructure that look great, but create a situation where only rich kids can afford to go to college, while everyone else is stuck with the dilemma of incurring 6 figures of debt just to get educated. And lastly, we have our ticks, our students, busy sucking up and absorbing all the knowledge from their collegiate experience and their student internship opportunities. But they will also be held accountable to standards and service requirements. They must agree to be mentored as freshmen and sophomores, and they must pay it backward and mentor others as upperclassmen. Additionally, they need skin in the game. They are going to be mandated, once they graduate and become career earners, to contribute $1,000 every year for the rest of their life, minimum, back to the Educational Access Fund to provide the same opportunity that they got to families just like theirs. Now, most of the kids that I work with that don't have educational access, they have no family alma mater. The only launch pad they'll build for future generations is the one they will build for themselves, if given the chance. These kids are every bit like mine, and probably like yours. They have dreams, and they have drama. They have BFFs, and maybe even a playground nemesis. What they do not have, that my children take for granted, is an expectation of college. And when we change that one factor, we begin to dismantle poverty brick by brick. Now, this is no longer an option between doing something and doing nothing. Poverty is powered by gravity. Every time we do nothing, it gets worse. So we're either fighting to end it, or we're inadvertently creating more of it. My commitment is to fight to end it. I believe that we can abolish poverty by providing educational access to all Americans and by manufacturing hope.